Hey everybody, this is Rob over at Kudzu. Wanted to do a little bit more of an in-depth demonstration of our new Nintex Workflow Cloud capabilities. So our ability to now take InfoPath forms, PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, Balsamiq mockups, images, Word documents, basically anything we can support on the reader side and author them in a few clicks and typically very quickly as native Nintex Workflow Cloud forms. So we're going to start with one of our more basic. Well, it's not basic. It's kind of middle complexity. It's got multiple repeating sections, 40-ish fields. I've got some drop downs that are populated. There's a bunch of rules in this one as well. So it's actually a pretty good, pretty good starting point. So we'll come over here into Kudzu, go into our wizard. I'm going to go ahead and grab this file. It's this employment application here. Go ahead and read that in. So basically we're opening up the XSN file. We're pulling out a bunch of information about fields, what's the structure of it, and basically building what we call our uniform model, from that. We can go in and get a quick preview of that, so what it would look like. And you can see the repeating sections came across. You can see the drop downs, everything, the images, styling. So it brought everything, across. So very high fidelity read of that particular form. I'm going to go ahead and pick our Nintex writer. Really not a lot we have to do here. We default to not use the labels because of the really clean user experience inside of an Nintex form. You can just set the title and it puts a label above the input. So we're suppressing, by default, suppress labels. If you want to use the labels, you can do that, and then we won't set the title property because we don't want to double label things. And you'll see this will write this form out in under a second. We end up with a native Nintex Workflow Cloud form model, which is JSON based. We can come over here over to one of our test instances. Go ahead and create a workflow. We're going to start from a form. Get in here to the designer, click import. There's the form we just created. And there you go. Again, we started out with a well-designed kind of form. So we've got a bunch of different forms we use in testing. Some are purposely well-designed, others are poorly designed because we want to see how our conversion engine handles that to when we write out to different platforms. So you can see images came across, all the different fields came across, the drop downs are populated. We've got 3 repeating sections here, and here's our file picker for a resume. So we got everything. We can go to the preview here, look at the form. I went to Hanover Park, and that was high school in New Jersey. Go ahead and add a row. And to NJIT, that was college. So you can see we have a fully, kind of functional form. And again, very high fidelity. You'll see the sizing, the layout, everything, came across. So that's one example. We have another example of an InfoPath form that's kind of really bad. I mean, this doesn't look terrible, but you can see we just kind of typed it in. Nothing really lines up. It's kind of a mess, to be honest. We didn't like build out a very structured kind of row column layout. We just kind of built some, built a kind of a 2-column layout, created some rows, and more or less typed the form out into the column. So let's read this one in and see what Nintex can do with it. So we've got the PTO requests. Read that in. Again, it's going to go pretty quick. It's a smaller form. It's smaller than the last one. You can see, in our HTML preview, it looks pretty good. captured everything. We got the radio buttons, we got the date time pickers. So all in all, not bad. Styling, looks pretty spot on. Layout looks good too. Go ahead and click over, pick Nintex, same thing. Just click next. Again, this is going to write out very quickly, about a little over half a second. There's our file. It downloaded locally. Go back to Designer. Go ahead and read that one in. And voila. You can see a nice structured layout form. And we took the kind of separate radio buttons and we're able to convert those into single choice form types. It's not perfect. It's close. There's a couple fields. You've got a little bleed with the labels and stuff here, so you can kind of come in and clean up some of that pretty easily to get things the way you want it. You can do some styling, obviously, additional styling on this. But for the most part, it did a very good job, and it's a much cleaner looking form now. Everything is lined up into, kind of the distinct rows and columns. One more quick one I wanted to do. We've been mostly focused on InfoPath, but I wanted to show you one of the ideation platforms we support. So here's a Balsamiq mockup. This is a widely used, probably after Figma, probably one of the more widely used wireframe and mockup platforms. It's got a kind of a sketchy kind of feel to it, so you can kind of sketch out a form by picking these different containers up top. You can obviously set properties on these, do all kinds of stuff. So we read these again at a pretty high fidelity. So if I flip back over here, I'll go ahead and grab that mock-up. That's this one right here. We'll go ahead and read that in. And again, super fast. And you can see here it is in our preview, and you can see all the views are here. So it grabbed all 3 views. We'll go ahead and write that out to Nintex. Click next. Again, it's going to write it out super fast. That one took a little bit longer, but not too much longer. We'll go ahead and read that in. And voila. There's your form. There's all the fields. Everything's typed properly. The drop downs are populated. You have your repeating section. Maybe you don't want this to wrap, so you come in here and just say, expand, and voila. The form looks, virtually identical to the original. It's very clean, and you can see it's very fast. So, obviously you get into bigger forms, more complex forms, you might end up wanting or having to do some refactoring, but for a large percentage of the forms, whether they're InfoPath, PDFs, maybe you've got some Excel spreadsheets you want to convert to kind of an electronic form, capture solution. Those are all things we can read in very quickly into Kudzu and convert them to the Nintex Workflow Cloud. So that's it. Please reach out to us or your Nintex rep if you have any questions, want to understand. We're also going to be doing some work around upgrading on-premise Nintex forms to NWC coming up here before the end of the year. So stay tuned for that as well.